comment. Add comment. How do I add? Oh, there it is. Add a comment. Paste. And then I need to pin it. Is it going to let me pin it?
Hey, Kai. You shut the door? Yeah, it's recording.
Want me to hold it?
We'll put it up there. We have a few people that are watching already.
Want me to hold it?
Put it up there. We have a few people that are watching already.
Want me to hold it?
Put it up there. We have a few people that are watching already.
Hello, hello, hello. How you guys doing? We're gonna be starting here shortly.
Go ahead and start the other one for Instagram. Click it. Just, I know, just click it on the side. You know my passcode. Press the play button on the center.
Can I get that after you set it up? All right. So hello everybody. We're still about 4 minutes away. We will be starting on time, of course. So appreciate those that are early. And just give us a few minutes to set up a little bit and wait for others to join in. And this is actually our second Elevate Live on Facebook, the second one. And we're going to discuss how to grow people. How to grow people. It's actually my favorite one because I feel like it's a priceless skill. Once you get this down, I tell my guys all the time, you'll double your income. If you know how to develop people, there's not a lot of people out there that really maximize that opportunity out there. And that's the ability to learn a skill set that you can actually help people by developing them and putting them in a position where they can, it's definitely going to be more fulfilling, but they're also going to impact their income because employers out there are looking for those types of people all the time. So how to grow people, my favorite one. So what definitely want to, while we're waiting here for the next couple minutes, got about 3 minutes left. While we're waiting, just want to discuss kind of the backdrop, since we got a little time, about how Elevate got started. So Elevate is a consulting agency. So basically, we go to places and teach them how to lead people, develop people. And we're also doing it online. That's going to be the focus this year, is to do it online. So we will also go into businesses and organizations and do it that way, but definitely want to have an online presence too, just because it makes sense. And we got a lot of stuff going on as far as packages. We're operating, trying to focus on the individual level as well as company level or organizational level, and also at an enterprise level. So especially with the e-courses. So that's where we're at right now. And kind of the backdrop of the story was, I was an assistant at the time when I came up with this program. But basically, it was out of frustration. We didn't have enough people. We were shorthanded. I believe we needed about 37 people. We had about 22. And people realized this. You know, the people that were there, they were working, and they knew we were shorthanded. So what are you going to do? I mean, if they're not performing, what do? You can't let them go. You can't reprimand them too harshly, because now you have even less people. So I was extremely frustrated. You know, you hold a lot of your emotions in, and out of frustration, I was like, man, if we can just elevate the thinking of the people that were there, we can accomplish so much more. And I debate on sharing this part, but I was I'm a Christian, so I was going to a church. In the church I was going to, everything in there was an acronym. So like TEAMS was Teaching Effective Applications of Marriage. So you can imagine every single group was an acronym. So when I said elevate, and I was actually at the altar praying, when I said elevate, it just sparked something in me. I went back to my seat and I just wrote down the word elevate, and I just started writing things down. And as I wrote those things down, I think E was experience at the time. It later becomes expectations, because really it starts there. L was leadership. E was ethics. V was vision. A was attitude. T was temperaments. And that tends to be the one that everybody likes. That's the favorite one for most people, is temperaments, because it's the inborn traits you're born with. Things that some people are naturally extroverts. Some people are naturally introverts. Some people are talkative. Some people are not. But it teaches you how to deal with those different types of people. So we do a lot of videos with that. We use a lot of movies for examples, and we teach you how to deal with the different types of temperaments that are out there. We define them. We tell you how to identify them. We tell you, we have a section called use and abuse, and it's really a fun session. And then the last one's effectiveness. So that's when you learn how to create cultures. You learn how to really set up a frontline team, a team that will help you get to where you want to go. So, and plus there's a lot of other things in effectiveness. But see, that was the program. So that's what we did. And like I said before, I've been in youth prisons. I've been in computer companies. I've been in churches. I've been in restaurants, and it's fun sharing. It's definitely fun sharing and hearing the things that the questions that people have as we went through the program. And I'm really excited because being web-based is a new thing for us. So this is very exciting for me to be web-based, because you can do so much more with that dynamic. So that's 7:01. So we're definitely going to get started here. And I want to thank everybody that's out there in the internet space, joining us for our second Elevate Facebook Live. I will share this again. We talked about it the last time, but I was definitely not going to do this. This is not my style. My wife talked me into this. She says, you have to not be a dinosaur and do stuff that this is how people are communicating now. So this is what I'm doing, but it's definitely a different experience for me. But it was very therapeutic the first time. I didn't realize how therapeutic it would be, because I'm not a guy that's sitting in the ivory tower somewhere. I mean, I lead teams day in and day out. And, and I didn't realize that this would be therapeutic, because when you're out there doing it, you don't get to reflect as much. You don't get to share some of your frustrations. You don't get to share your experiences so much. You're just doing it. So as I was talking last week, it was therapeutic for me just to kind of share some of the stuff we do. And and some of the experience we have. And my mother-in-law, the best mother-in-law in the world, is on. She said, "Hey, Team Car. Hi, Miss Brenda." And there's a Aunt Brenda too. We're waiting for her to come on too, because I learned last week there's an aunt and a Miss Brenda, my mother-in-law. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being on. And so another thing we wanted to do is kind of give you an idea of what we're doing. So we're going to definitely have, remember, Elevate is a consulting agency, and what we'll also do is we'll have e-courses online. There'll be 2 different levels. There'll be, kind of a base level, and then there'll be one that's a little bit more intense. We'll also do one-on-one coaching. We'll do offer 2 levels on the one-on-one coaching. We'll do one that's like a more of a we'll do what we call a strategy session with you, and then we'll have an advanced strategy session, and then we'll also do the of course going into the buildings for groups and go into those buildings and do Elevate the seminar. We also offer different types of seminars too. It's not just about Elevate the leadership course, but there's other seminars too. And while the website is being developed, you'll see everything will be listed on there. It's we only got 30 minutes, so I don't want to go through all that right now. But there's a lot going on with Elevate. We also have free strategy sessions that we're going to be introducing today. So it's a 15-minute strategy session, no charge. We can share some of the concepts with you that we use. And it starts off with a questionnaire. I got a gnat in my office. It starts off with a questionnaire, and it's about 12 questions. And then we're also going to send you some assessments. We'll send you a couple assessments. You fill them out. One of them is a temperament assessment. And then there's going to be a mindset assessment along with that, and an attitude assessment. So those things, once you fill them out, then I can sit back and read the information, and then we can work on a plan together. So to get you where you want to be, So that's what's going on right now, the 15-minute free strategy session. And I definitely wanted to thank, and my dad checking in. That means my mom's right next to him. So hi, Dad. I feel like I didn't say that last time because I didn't see the computer. I can see who's checking in now. So I really appreciate my dad being there. And it's funny because they're going to both be on some of these examples I give today. But thanks for coming in. I know you guys have other stuff to do. I know everybody has other things to do. So I really appreciate setting apart some time to be a part of this. So the other thing we're doing is we have the quote book that's already out. It's actually, you can be purchased online, but it's a quote book. And what we do is we look for people that really make impacts, that's really made an impact on this world. And we take some of the quotes that they have, and then we provide commentary. And we had our first purchase last week, Mrs. Ann Boykin, in which I was planning on reading all the things she said, and it was very uplifting. And I don't know if there's a such thing as virtual hugs, but Ann, if there was a such thing as virtual hugs, I would give you a virtual hug. Those things were what you said was very empowering. And it really meant a lot, because sometimes you do this stuff and you're like, well, I hope people get something from it. Now, we also ask those that are watching to drop the city that they're watching from. That's always interesting, just from a nosy standpoint, and just kind of share what's going on. What city you from? I like to see that. And then it would be helpful, and we encourage you to grab a pen and paper, because some of these things you're not going to remember. So if you grab a pen and paper, you can start taking notes. And we're going to start here into the details here pretty soon. So the other thing we want to do is just kind of introduce the subject. We're talking about how to grow people. And I titled it that on purpose because it makes you feel like, when you say it like that you have a little bit more control than you actually do. And I know those that are out there are saying, I wish it was that easy. It sounds like it's a definite thing. But I think sometimes we feel like we don't have as much power as we do. Influence is a powerful thing. And if we exercise tools that are influential, I think we'll see a lot of progress when it comes to growing people. So I definitely wanted to kind of, we're going to go through the aspects of growing people. But one of the things that we wanted to highlight also is that it's not just a personal level, it's also from a professional level. These same principles you can use in your personal life, and you can also use them in your professional life. And those are some of the services we offer too. And I wanted to define first, before we get into the actual elements of growth, I want to define what the job of leader is. Now, this is where I really get passionate because, you read all these books on leadership and they'll tell you the qualities of a leader. Oh, he should be able to get people to do things they don't want to do. Or a leader is somebody that gets results, and a leader is somebody that people are drawn to. And those are all qualities of a leader. But what is the job of a leader? Now, the job of a leader in Elevate, we believe the job of a leader is to shape perspectives and to give hope. It's that simple. Shape perspectives and to give hope. And this is not something we came up with. Napoleon actually came up with this. And, he was successful. We can all agree that Napoleon was successful. So I love what he said. He said the job of a leader is to shape perspectives and to give hope. Diane, we see you. My cousin, I call her my best friend cousin, Alec. I don't call her Alec. I call her Tamika. But on the website here, it's called Alec. But my best friend cousin, I talk to her probably 3 or 4 times a week. I'm glad you're on. She got on me because we couldn't post. We didn't post. She posted her question on Instagram and we weren't looking at Instagram. So I'm glad. If you have any questions, y'all, please go to Facebook. So if you have any questions, please go to Facebook. But thanks to Mika for joining. But back to the job of a leader, shape perspectives and give hope. So when you say, when you use that as a definition, it really implies extreme ownership. So the job, which means what that person's hired to do, what that person's responsibility is to shape perspectives. And to give hope means you got to keep this thing positive to a degree. You can't just beat them down. You can't just be overly aggressive or task master minded. You have to be a person that understands that you got to keep them connected to you, and that's paramount when you go into leadership, understanding what your job is, shape perspectives and to give hope. Now, I'm getting older and I know my parents are going to laugh because I got glasses now. And so bear with me because I cannot see my writing without the glasses. But just like Einstein had the theory of relativity, where he said energy equals mc squared, or E equals mc squared, which is a very popular, probably one of the most famous equations out there. Elevate has an equation. And what we say is G equals E times A times P cubed times A squared. So I'm going to say that again because I know that's a lot. G equals E times A times P cubed times A squared. So the G stands for growth. So growth equals E, expectations, times accountability, which is the A, times P, which is patience, which is cubed, times A, which is affirmation, which is squared. So growth equals expectations, accountability, patience, and affirmation. That's the growth formula. And I promise you, just like you can take a plant outside and put some water in it and put it by the sun and it'll grow, you can take that same formula and use it for yourself or your people around you, and you'll see them grow. It's not debatable. It's been going on for centuries, since man started. You start off with expectations. So what are expectations? Expectations are a strong belief of what someone should be doing or someone should be achieving. A strong belief. That's what expectations are. And it's very simple. I mean, I think of my mother when it comes to expectations. So when I was little, you have these spelling tests in school. And every Friday we'd have this spelling test. And it was a large part of your grade. And it was 20 words. And I know my mom knows what I'm talking about here. But it was 20 words. And she would make sure that I knew those words. So the expectation was, before the test begins, I have to know the 20 words. It wasn't a secret. They didn't hide it from us. It wasn't one of those pop quizzes where they asked you to spell some words that you didn't know. They gave you the words in the beginning. So the expectations were clear. And 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 I remember if I paused, my mom would make me go back to my room and study the word, because a pause meant that I didn't really know the word. So I would have to say the word, spell the word, and it shouldn't be any pauses, because the expectations was for me to know the word. And so the first element of growth is expectations. And the thing about expectations, to make sure you remember, is that the expectations have to be clear. Expectations, what you're expecting should be achieved, or what you're expecting should be done, it has to be clear. And that's easier said than done. And then you have to make sure you explain why you have those expectations. Now, I love this because this is very appropriate for the generation we're dealing with now. You know, I think they call them the Y generation. They talk about the Generation Z, and I'm trying to remember the other term, the millennials, Generation Z. Well, they come up with a new term called Generation Y, because they're always asking why, you know, and they don't always mean it in a disrespectful way, but that's what they're doing. They want to know why we do what we do, or why do I have to do this, or why do I have to do that? So expectations have to be clear, and you have to make sure you explain why and how they connect to the overall vision of what you're trying to accomplish. My aunt, Miss Martha, sister, we call her. Thank you for being on. Appreciate you being there. My aunt Stephanie, representing P-Town, Pflugerville. Thank you for being on. And I like that. My wife went in there and she was typing some of the stuff in. I love that. So making sure that you explain why and how they connect to your overall vision. And then the last point I want to make about expectations is that you need to get a verbal commitment. It does no good to tell somebody what you expect and then tell them, hey, this is what I need you to do. This is why I need you to do it, how it connects to what we're doing, and then don't get a verbal commitment. When you ask for that verbal commitment, you're going to get two answers, yes, or you're going to get a no. Now, when they say that yes, it does something inside of you when you commit to something. And that's important to get that. They need to make that commitment. If they say no, then you can ask them why. Do you feel like what I'm expecting is unfair? Do you feel like what I'm saying or expecting is overwhelming? Why is it that you feel like you cannot commit? Now, I'm going to tell you, I've been doing this a while. I never had anybody say no. I just haven't. I'm sure it happens somewhere out there to somebody, but it just hasn't happened with me. I just haven't heard anybody just say no, because really the expectations we lay out there are not really overwhelming. A lot of times what we're expecting is not clear, or a lot of times what we're expecting is not explained why and how it connects. But if you do those things, the person's like, oh, okay, I'll do that. No problem. But it's important to go through those steps. So David, oh my goodness. David, I used to work with him in the restaurant business. Thank you for joining in, David. Really appreciate it. San Antonio in the house. I got to say the cities, right? San Antonio in the house. So really appreciate David being on. So expectations, very important. First step of the growth formula. Remember, the growth formula is growth equals E times A times P cubed times A squared. Growth equals expectations times accountability times patience and affirmation. Very important. So the next letter is accountability. So accountability is the second part of the growth formula. And please, my wife has passed me notes here. So as we go on, please share and please like, so we can kind of get a feel how you guys feel out there. Please share and please like as we go through. But accountability is the second part of the growth formula. And this is usually the one people struggle with. Just because I believe, this is my opinion, I believe people look at accountability the wrong way. When people think accountability, fun feelings don't come to mind. When you think of accountability, you don't think about whipped cream and marshmallows and blowing bubbles and birds singing. That's just not that comes to mind. And I think accountability has got a bad rap, because the word it doesn't have to be negative, but it is very much needed if you want growth. And accountability is just holding someone responsible. So in our house, my job is to take out the trash. So if the trash is not taken out, and I think I'm never done that. I'm looking at my wife. Trash has been taken out every time, right? So the trash has been taken out every time. But if I didn't take it out, I guarantee you, I promise you that she is going to hold me accountable. Is she going to whoop me? No. Is she going to slap me? No. But I'm going to hear her say something to me. She's going to say, why did you not take? Whose job is it? Who's responsible for taking the trash out? Isn't that you? Don't you tell Kai to do things and he don't do them? Don't you supposed to take out the trash? So I know for example, for sure that she's going to hold me accountable. And that just means, she's holding me responsible to the job that I have, which is making sure that trash is taken out. Because the flip side of the trash can being taken out is Kai's responsibility to bring the trash can back in. So we make sure that that happens. It's twofold. But accountability gets a bad rap. And if you think about it, how do you view accountability? How do you view it? Is it a positive to you or is it a negative? What is the first thing you feel when you hear the word? When does accountability start? It starts right after the expectations are laid out. So once you lay out those expectations, and if they're not met, you have to say, hey, a reminder, hey, you're the person that's supposed to own this thing. You're the person responsible. So accountability, the best example is I can give of accountability is my Aunt Stephanie. So I used to cut her yard when I was younger. I don't cut yards anymore. I'm too old, but I used to cut yards when I was younger. And man, talking about somebody holding you accountable. So I would go out there and cut the yard, and it wasn't a small house. It wasn't a small yard. It was a corner lot, and she wins yards of the month. So this is a serious deal here. So I'm glad Stephanie's on because she knows about what I'm about to say. So Aunt Stephanie would, after I mowed it, after I weed eat it, after I edged, because it wasn't good enough to have a weed eater and try to edge it with the weed eater. No, she wanted an edger. So you had to come down and edge the whole yard, the corner lot, front and back. And she would come out and inspect it. And after she inspected it, if there was anything, if I missed a strip of grass or if the edging was not thick enough, she would come and say, hey, it's not right. Because my job was to cut the grass, and she held me accountable. And I mean it. She held me accountable. And that's part of the reason I don't cut grass anymore, because of Aunt Stephanie. So, but yeah, she was a stickler about the grass. I know where she got it from, my grandmother. So my grandmother is a stickler. They make sure that you do what you're supposed to do, which is a great thing. Because if you say you're going to do it, you need to make sure you do it. So accountability, huge. And I would say out of the 4 elements, expectations, accountability, patience, and affirmation, it's the hardest one. Or I should say probably the most difficult to execute, just because I think we see it the wrong way. Like when you're on the job, people think of accountability as a write-up. It don't have to be a write-up. It's just a conversation. I said last week, if you can count the coaching conversations you've had during the day, you have not had enough coaching. You haven't had enough of them. I can't count how many coaching conversations. I say stuff all day. You leave tired. You leave tired of talking, so especially if you're in leadership, is this what you're desiring to do? Just know, you're going to have a lot of coaching conversations. You're going to be walking around talking all day long, setting expectations, level setting, holding people accountable to the standard. That's what it's all about. If you're the person that's looking at it from an individual perspective, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? What is the expectation that you have? And then how do you hold yourself accountable? Now, this is a tricky one. It's simple, but it's tricky. So there's all kind of stuff out there you can do. I used to not look at TV. If I didn't get certain things done, I would ban TV for a week. If I didn't get a book read by a certain amount of time, I wouldn't buy myself certain things. But there has to be accountability, because you can't just make set these expectations and miss them, right? Because you said you wanted to accomplish a certain thing. So as an individual, what is it that gets you? We do it with kids all the time. We tell Kai if he don't get certain things done, we take the Xbox away, right? That's accountability. We have the conversations first, but if the conversations don't work, then the next level is take the Xbox. You'd be surprised how much productivity we got when we use that Xbox as leverage. It's amazing. It's amazing. So after accountability, first you have expectations, then you have accountability, and then you have patience. Patience cubed. And if we're going to be transparent, this is the hardest one for me. I want things done right now. I want things done yesterday. That's how I'm wired. We'll go into temperaments later on, but my temperament, my secondary temperament is a pusher. So I'm a perfectionist pusher. So one counselor I talked to said, hey, that's the hardest type to be married to, because you want everything right and it's never done. You're never satisfied with what's done. You want everything perfect and you're on to the next one. So as soon as one thing's good, you're already on to the next one because you're a pusher. So you're looking for the next thing. So a perfectionist pusher. So patience is hard. And my mother tells me a lot, be patient, be patient, be patient. So impatience is just the capacity to accept or tolerate delay, trouble, or suffering without getting angry or upset. You got to let the process work. You got to keep reminding. You got to keep coaching. You got to make sure that they understand what's being expected. And that whole process takes time. So patience cubed. That's why that has the highest number next to it. Patience is cubed. Because if you think about it, you're asking a person to change their behaviors. And that's huge. You know, how many commercials you see on weight loss, or how many commercials you see about stopping smoking cigarettes. Once certain behaviors are routines in a person's life, including myself, it's hard to stop exhibiting those behaviors. So as a leader, our job is to be patient. So we had a situation not too long ago. We were working with some people and we we're teaching them a simple task, and it was just landscaping, you know. So it's different, you know. I'm 49, so I grew up cutting grass, but nowadays we had to teach the person how to cut. You know, we had to teach them how to start the lawnmower. We had to teach them how to push it. We had to teach them how to sweep. We had to teach them which broom to use. We had to teach them, after you make a couple piles, throw them away. Don't go to the other side and start collecting more piles. By that time, the other piles will blow. So just simple patience while you're going through teaching. And then you got to tell them, hey, I need you to be really good at this because we need you to teach the next person. Because really, I say that because I don't have patience. I don't want to teach the next person. I want that person to teach them because we just went through all this effort and energy with that individual. So patience is huge. And then affirmation, which is if I was to say, is probably the second most important one out of the four. Affirmation means to validate or confirm. That means you actually went out there and you checked that yard. You checked that landscape. And you said, you know what? I confirm that it's right. That means that you inspected it. That means that you looked at it and said, you know what? And it's kind of a compliment, but it's not as simple as a compliment. It's almost like a well done. I look at what you've done and you've done exactly what I ask, and I validate your work. Very important that they get that affirmation. And you notice that affirmation is cubed because that affirmation is squared, because a lot of times people will multiply your accountability in their head. You'll say something to hold them accountable and you might have said it twice, but in their mind, they think you said it 50 times. So you have to make sure that when you do affirm, you do it strong and you do it often. I probably need to take that affirmation and make it more than two. But I mean, affirmation is huge. In the old school days, and I know the people that are my age or older is going to hear this, but in the old school days, we used to say, don't expect what you don't inspect. So don't sit there and expect something to be done that you're not going up and following up on. There's leadership books all over the place that'll tell you the key to success is follow up. You got to follow up over and over and over again. Follow up.
Repeat the definition of patience.
The definition of patience is the capacity to accept or tolerate delay, trouble, or suffering without getting angry and upset. So I was asked to repeat the definition of patience. So very, very key, the capacity. And that's easier said than done, especially when you're on your 10th time saying it, you know. So patience is huge. So that's the growth formula. G equals E times A, P cubed times A squared. That's the growth formula. And I promise you, if you follow those things, you'll see success. And I would say this just to throw something out there. You know, some philosophers had said behavior flows from three main sources: desire, emotion, and knowledge. And we have to be mindful of that. They're not robots that we're talking to. They're not robots that we're in charge of. They're not robots that are just don't have feelings and emotions. They're wired. Their behavior is wired to their desire. Their behavior is wired to their emotions, and their behavior is wired to their knowledge. So, and if you notice, I always say desire is like a cousin of emotion, but it's not emotion. Desire is different. Desire is something that you want to have. Emotion, a lot of time, is a reaction or response to something that happened inside or outside, internally or externally. It's just a response. So when you're dealing with behaviors, you need to understand that it ain't always going to make sense. And you need to understand that the people you're leading, a lot of stuff is not logical, because behaviors flow from desire, emotion, and knowledge. Now, it's great when we get to the point where you can just say something and you can show it and prove it on paper, and then all of a sudden all the behaviors change. It just ain't that simple. I wish it was that simple, but it's just not. So we need to use that to our benefit, that's how we're wired as people. And if we understand, like I'm gonna tell you, I know David, we used to be in the restaurant business together. So I know one of the things we used to do was if we had a task that needed to be done, I'll say, hey, right before lunch, right before you go to lunch, buddy, or right before you go to your break, hey, I need this done. And you'd be surprised. And I'm going to come check it. I'm going to go check it before you go to lunch. All right. You'll be surprised at the level of excellence and productivity you get when you connect it to a desire. They want to eat and they know me. I'm going to come back and check. So you'll be surprised how quick people can move, how resourceful people are, and how mindful of the fact that you're coming back and checking. The level of excellence is I was like, man, if we can get this 24 hours a day, wow, where would we be as a team? But you'll see, connected to their desire. On the emotional side, make sure they can see what their benefit is, what they get out of it. So just wanted to tell you, please, David, thanks for sharing. I really appreciate you. I wanted to tell everybody, thank you for coming out. For hearing this second Facebook Live, and the website will be done soon. And also, we do have a splash page up where we have the ebook, and next week I believe we'll have the coaching sessions available. And I really enjoy talking to you guys, and I really appreciate you coming out. And just know every Wednesday at 7:00. We'll be having these sessions every Wednesday at 7:00. And I'm looking for my list here. Next week, we talk about the secret sauce to getting your team moving towards excellence, the secret sauce. The week after that, we talk about how to slay vision vampires. The week after that, we talk about what do you do when you fail miserably. The next week after that, we talk about making the most out of conflict. And then the last one is your secret weapon to creating winning cultures, your secret weapon. So any questions before we end this session? If there's no questions, I don't think David typed in realistic goals. And you're right, David. You know it, or I guess we can say realistic expectations, realistic expectations. Most of us heard about the SMART goals, making sure they're specific, they're measurable, they're attainable, they're realistic, and they're timely, but definitely realistic goals. So thank you, sister. Really appreciate it. And that's it. We're going to try to make sure we get out of here on time, because we appreciate your time so much. If you have any questions, you can always go to info at We Must Elevate. And like I said, we'll be sharing what's happening next every time we have one of these meetings. Thank you a lot.